Hi, I'm sorry. Oh, I have no idea what happened. Let me make sure that everybody got here. And I got the proper link. Okay, we are good. Give me just a second to delete the old one. Minute. Yeah, I have no idea. I would just not get the button that allows me to start a hangout on air. It just, I didn't get the countdown. I didn't get anything. So, good morning, everybody. Let me see. I am good. Let me move this away and get myself ready. Yeah, I am totally pooped. If you know what I did, I got the whole front yard. I weeded it. Because I cannot use a push mower, I'm using a weed eater. So I mowed it. I trimmed all the bushes. I trimmed most of the English ivy on the house. Goodness. Yeah, I mean, look at my hands. Yeah, I was actually at one point, I said, okay, I need to stop because these hands started swelling a little bit. And that is very dangerous for me because, yeah, this is what you see red is just, I didn't, I didn't wipe properly my nail polish because it was all chipped from working. But the thing is that I had, with the breast cancer, I had axillary lymph node dissection on the right armpit. And I have to always avoid anything. I mean, they're not even allowed to take blood pressure on this arm because it can cause lymphedema. So I must be careful, never get a burn or a scratch or a poke or anything on this arm and hand. And when I saw the, because see how it's a tad swollen. Yeah, it's okay. So let's start on the whole jewelry sculpting because the whole thing. What made me try and tackle this was the fact that, yeah, you know, the whole goddess pendant thing, and I thought, well, this is a a sculpted piece of jewelry, and why not discuss a little bit more on other sculpted types of that are done in jewelry making, and essentially. What I will touch quite briefly, and if you like it, we can extend it into the next live event, is number one, sculpted beads. And number two, of course, sculpted pendants. But to talk a little bit about the sculpted beads. And I'm not going to get very complicated here. I'm going to just show you a few things that make um, for a little bit more different beads. And actually, let me grab just some mica, whatever, just for showing purposes. There we go. It doesn't really have to match anything. This is scrap clay. So it's just to show you in case you want to add mica, and I'm going to go grab a chalk pastel as well to show you other things. But So, hello, Carol, Deborah, Teresa, Colleen, Edette. Did I miss anybody? That's why I can see on the chat. Suzanne, Carol, I said Carol, Lawrence. All right. So essentially, remember, I'm sorry, I keep nagging you on this one. And I hope I have it handy, is the sculpting tool. Again, I get back to this. And as I said, for me, it is an absolutely irreplaceable tool. And I told you what I did on this end. I actually filed it a little bit thinner. Hi, Julia. Okay. I guess I just didn't see you in the chat. I scrolled real quick. Another thing that you can use that is really easy to use is a needle tool. And if you don't have a needle tool, if you go back way back, there's a tutorial that says 3 tricks and tips. And in that one, I show you how to make a needle tool using just a sewing needle. And other things that you can use, of course, are the ball styluses. These ones that are, I forgot how they are called, but they come in a set of 3 and they are from Sculpey. And they are really neat to poke beads with, to make the holes. But not only that, another thing they are really neat for the bottom seat and seat, there are 3 different dimensions. And the same goes for the tip. I usually use just the thinnest one. There you go, etch and pearl. Is this, because these things have like a little round, like hollow in here. I don't know if I can make, there you go. And you can make really, hold on, because they're kind of tall and they hit the camera. But you can make really neat impressions with them. And you can make a whole bunch of stuff. See? And you can even go for like making small beads, making sure that they are nice and round. Again, I'm gonna lift it because these things are very tall, very long. Actually, let me show you on the tile because it's better on the tile. So you grab a piece, and this is good for, I'm sorry, I have a horrible case of chemo brain. What's that technique that you have beads and then you put little strings around and it starts with an S. What's the name of it? Because I said I was going to make a tutorial on it. Please help me. It's from India and it's done with, it's jewelry made with tapestry things. Okay, so you make the bead and you just push down to the tile, and there you go. You have a really pretty one. Soutache, there you go. You can make absolutely fabulous soutache beads using the end of the etch and pearl. And the fact that you have 3 different sizes, okay, I got it too low. The fact that you have 3 different sizes, you can make different sizes of soutache beads. And not just soutache beads, but now, what I want to go through first is to get um, a few things. There are a lot of styles of jewelry that have a big following. One of them would be anything that pertains to octopuses. And I know it sounds weird, but this is the truth. There's a lot of people who love octopus jewelry. On octopus jewelry, I'll show you a few things. So as I showed you this, and I will get back to it, but I'll show you a few tricks because tentacles jewelry, those are very, very sought after. So if you get, and they don't even need to be absolutely perfectly equal, the same size, and I'm making them a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. But I'll make a tentacle. Yes, really, octopus. You will not believe how many. And the same, and it's got a derivation into the Cthulhu. A lot of people love Cthulhu jewelry. If you didn't know that, you can find it out. I mean, you will not believe. And I will make, at one point, I will make a tentacles because Pardo works beautiful with Bonsoir Chris, with sea stuff. And a lot of sea stuff. People like a lot of sea stuff. And we'll do fish and snake and other stuff. So you'll need the little suction cups and how to make the tentacle. Let me say it really quick in French. Donc, on va faire aujourd'hui des éléments de sculpture pour les bijoux. Et je vais vous montrer comment faire très simplement quelques éléments pour des bijoux qui sont très recherchés et qui ont un marché pour eux-mêmes. Donc, si vous faites des bijoux à vendre, je vais vous donner des astuces comment faire ces bijoux très, très facilement. And Cécile is not here, is she? Premièrement, je vais faire des tentacules comme pour le octopus. J'ai oublié comment on dit ça en français. C'est cet animal marin qui a de 8 pieds et verse de l'encre. So you do a tentacle, and then again, these things are going to be useful for this. And I didn't do the tentacle right, and I'm going to redo it just a second. As soon as I find my little... It's still a mess on my table because I had to do the garden work, so I didn't get yet to my table. I have to do a lot of rearranging. I went yesterday with my best friend at Goodwill, and I found a ton of stuff for organizing. So you always use and if you remember my tutorials on long beads, if you want to taper something, you use the acrylic block and start pressing on one end. When you do this, you press a little bit more on one of the ends to get the clay tapering evenly. Like this. And then you go with your, and it didn't taper evenly here because I made a mess. I didn't make sure that they were well connected. So again, using these, you start with the larger one, and I'm going to have to, I wish these weren't so long. You start with the larger one, and then you go to the middle one. And then you go to the smallest one. And then you add a few smaller ones on the sides. And another thing that can make these things is the coffee stirrer And also on some of the Q-tips that have the Q in a little bit of a stronger plastic-like paper, if you want to make some of these smaller. So this is a way to make, yeah, they would work, but straws generally are big. So you want something that would be very small, and those Q-tips and the coffee stirrers can be actually up to 1 millimeter. Um, yeah, they work really good. Now, for the suction cups, what you need is little balls. And you just place them. Generally, you need to place them not just in the middle, but pretty much place them on each side of the tentacle. And as I said, you don't really have to make them all equal. It's good if you manage to, but you don't have to. And then you hold really nice. And then you start working with the ball stylus in them. And if they are bigger ones, then you might have to switch to a larger ball stylus. Like, see, I have a few bigger ones. Search another ball stylus. Yeah, because I kept working on stuff and all my tools and everything is all over the place. I don't know where the other ball stylus is. Okay, so what you do, you just go in and you start doing a little bit like this to enhance the suction cup. And this is how you do a tentacle, pretty much. And if you do them with translucent clay, they will look absolutely fabulous. Let me see if I have a drop of translucent somewhere here, because I told you it's a mess. I have like a ton of various. There's another thing. And I have a ton of various stuff and a ton of various clays and bits and pieces, and I swear it has never been this ever. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, I'm going to grab a tiny piece apart though, because I don't want to get up again. Just for the purpose of showing you how neat the tentacles look. And you can use this also for whatchamacallit, jellyfish. To make tiny jellyfish. So when you get the suction cup, and you can make the suction cup in your hand first, actually, and then just by pressing, you can place it there. This was too big, but oh well. And then when it bakes, it becomes translucent. The best thing is to actually get a little bit of combination of, I just saw something weird on my table, a little bit of combination of fairly pink, palely pink translucent and have it in the middle, or have a very washed out um, alcohol ink, more pinkish. And here I'll show you a small one and try to convince the camera to focus properly, because when they are small they are 10 times more realistic. And see, you go in, come on camera, you go in and then you do a little bit like this. So first you press down to put it in place, and then come on camera, come on. It's stubborn. It's very stubborn today. Come on. Come on. It's driving me nuts. I so wish it would allow you to get into settings, because there we go. See how it is a little bit translucent? And the same thing, if you want translucence on your tentacles, do pretty much a small Skinner blend between a translucent and a vaguely pink or any other color translucent, and then roll it so you'd have the colored part inside and the outside of the tentacle completely translucent. It's going to give such a beautiful realistic effect. And then for making a little jellyfish, you use the same principle. You make a bead, but this time you'll have to use the wide ball stylus. And it works also with the end of a paintbrush handle. And just thin it out on the edges. Also with the ball stylus. And these, of course, you have to make them with the translucent clay if you're going for jellyfish, always. And then you can gently and for example, to make very delicate beads or pendants with jellyfish, what you do, you make the jellyfish itself and you kind of ruffle a little bit the edges, and then you can use very thin wire with the seed bead at the end and just attach it to make little tentacles. Now for the fall corals, because if you do this kind of stuff, it's neat to attach some coral stuff. If you're going for the white, the skeleton, the white skeleton coral, that one is one of the easiest of all. So again, you make your bead, make sure you don't have any kind of fold lines, and then get it a little bit cylindrical. Cut the edges, the sides good, and it's okay if they are not perfectly like this. Actually, you want to make them a little bit uneven. And then you'll have to make the little indents and you just go like this with the edge and pearl. But make sure that you go a little bit in a line, not just a poke. See, like this. And you can use also the needle tool for this, and actually it's advisable that you use both, so you'd have, because what you're trying to imitate here is the openings those little corals used to come out from. Now going for fish, there are several textures for scales. The thing is that if you're trying to make something that would be as small as a bead or a fish bead, those textures are a little bit too big. So, and there are several things that can help you with that. One of them, I mean, especially if you make stuff like that, you know, like mermaid tail pendants are usually very um, successful. Okay. And yes, I do have, still didn't get around to do the mermaid tails and fairy wings. I have everything that I need. Actually, we could transform this one in. uh, okay, so it would be a sculpting thing, like the linoleum cutters. And these you can get for just a few bucks. You might have to wait like 10 days. I added this in the Amazon influencer store, and there are some that are rounded, because you have some that are in a sharp angle, and then you have some that are rounded. Just use the rounded ones, because there's smaller ones and larger ones. And you just go, you know, nicely. Now don't lift them, because these are fish scales, they are not dragon scales, and we'll get to dragon scales here in a minute. So you just, did I get a, no, you just go in and start making your fish scale pattern. And all you have to do is to go, okay, I didn't go very good. Let me get on the other side. So you make a row, and then the next row has to come in between the ones before. Now I'm going to tell you a trick on the best mermaid tail scales, and I'll have to show it to you in a tutorial. And then just flatten it a little bit, because again, this is a fish, it's not a dragon or something else. One of the best things, the prettiest things for a mermaid tail, you do your mermaid tail however you want, and the thing is that you make the mermaid tail, don't worry about the scales, not yet. You make the mermaid tail, and then you can put all kinds of acrylic and micas and whatever you want. And then you cover it with a very, very, very thin layer of translucent clay, and you bake it. And after you bake it, you go with these. And when you go with these, you actually, because remember that you can carve baked clay, you actually go just a little bit and lift, just a little bit and lift, and it will give such a beautiful transparency and look. Actually, why don't I really show you this? Let me get, because while I'm talking, it can bake, you know. So let me make just a little thing just to show you. Just for teaching purposes. So let's say that this is a mermaid tail for a pendant. And I'm going to put on it some color. And cover it with translucent. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of this extreme sheen. This is the aquamarine. Hi, Soile. Hi, everybody who came in and I didn't see you yet. Okay, I didn't shake it enough. And on top of it, I'm not very happy today because Whisper had an upset stomach. So I hope we are not getting again on the roller coaster. Now, of course, you can use mica. Just remember, if you use mica, then use some liquid clay on the translucent so it will stick. Okay, so now I got some, come on, get dry already. I got some translucent clay, and I'm going to try to make it even thinner just by gently pulling. And cover the whole thing. Of course, be careful not to trap air. And I'm going to put this in the oven. And then we'll continue with more stuff. I'll be right back. Okay, while that is being baked, let's move forward to dragons. Okay, what happened? Now, for dragons, and I've shown you this in the Dragon's Eye pendant tutorial. For dragons, you actually have several choices. Of course, you can use a texture. If you have a texture and it would work the scales, it would work also with this one that I showed you that goes for snake skin. It would work fine with dragons as well. But one thing would be to make itty bitty balls of clay and then just round them, flatten them, and place them. And again, they don't have to be equal, because in all dragon representations, they are not. The dragons have a very you can make yourself a cobblestone type texture that would be smaller. Now it depends also on what size of dragon you need the texture on. If you make a big dragon sculpture, yeah. But for purposes of jewelry, I would suggest you use something like this to make yourself a cobblestone like texture. And you can use that for, instead of having to do this scale by scale. Okay, you get back there. So this would be one way of achieving the dragon scale. Come on, camera. This would be one way. Another way, and I'm going to grab my... Another way is to practically go with straight lines and you make a grid, and then you go at the inside of the grid and you just pull in the corners. Might have to remove my eyeglasses for this. And that way you shape a kind of squarish scales, almost like the alligator ones. And I'll go grab something to show you both of these type of scales, how they look when they are. But yeah, dragons or dragon jewelry is pretty much immortal. Everybody wants some. So you go do something like this. And then the other way is again with something like this, but this time we shall go with the one with an angle. And for this, you can also use a cuticle cutter if you want smaller scales. But going with a squarish one, you just go in a little bit and lift. And you make the scales more, you know, Game of Thrones style. The more sharp scales. So this is how it looks with the linoleum cutter, and I'll get close-ups here in a minute. And this is how it looks with the cuticle cutter. The cuticle cutter will be a little bit sharper and more defined. Okay, and this is the difference. So this is the linoleum cutter, and this is the cuticle cutter. It's up to you which of them and how you want to get them. And give me just a minute, I'll bring you up. So once you get over them with any kind of metallic or pearlescent, if you go mica, if you go acrylics, if you go waxes, it doesn't really matter, but they will look very differently. So here you can see the alligator style scales, and here are the flattened bowls style scales. And here's in another color. But again, alligator style scales, and see the same on the eyelid itself, and then ball style scales. And here's with the cuticle cutter and flatten balls. Here's again combination of flattened balls and cuticle cutter and alligator style. But you can combine them, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. Then let's get to the next one on the list, and that would be spirals and dots, because I know somebody keeps asking me to do spirals and dots and strings and stuff. So I guess I will get to it now. So the other type of jewelry that's quite successful is the one that has all kinds of little spirally things. And that one is done generally in combination with various cabochons. So let me see if I have any fail cabochon handy here. I should. Okay, let's get this cameo. This is a cameo I've been testing all kinds of stuff on, but it would do just fine for cabochon and showing string thing stuff. So in this technique, you go. Oh yeah, I have a surprise for you in a soon-to-be tutorial. That's Game of Thrones. Actually, several surprises for you that are all Game of Thrones related. Okay, so, and you can do this by hand, or you can use your extruder to make the little strings. But generally speaking, this is done a lot. And again, they are fairly successful. Somehow I grabbed some mica from somewhere. I have no idea from where. But generally, they have little spirals at the ends. So what you do, you just grab it and very gently push it in. And then just turn it. And then you can do all kinds of spirally things with it. It's almost like a soutache without a bead in the middle. My hands might not be very adequate at this very moment for this. But yeah, generally meaning it would be pretty much like whenever you do a spiral in wire wrapping, and then you just keep spiraling the thing down, and you make all kinds of combinations. You can go also like this, and you can make several strings one near the other. That will also work pretty good. And the thing is that once you have them set, this one is crap. I made a bad job there. I'll try to make another one better. But yeah, where's this? Let me try and do it with this. Hopefully my hands will cooperate this time. And then you can just, layer them and form all kinds of little spirally things. And you can also add some dots. And generally the dots would be the best if they are um, pearly or mica-y. It is pretty much a kind of embroidery more than sculpture. But once you're done and you start, let's give it some kind of shape. Of course, you first cut your pendant shape and then you start putting the strings. I kind of did it backwards. But once you're done and you start embellishing it, it would look a lot better. Come on. And of course, it depends what you. I'm not going to do too much about this right now. But you can see that this, for example, if it were done with, let's say, a black clay with silver on top, or even with a white clay with silver on top. Okay, let me catch up. No, I just took one right before I started, so I should be good, Carol. Thank you. Unless I start hurting extra from all the yard work, I should be okay. Okay, let me go check on that because I think it might be that. Okay, it's done and it's hot. I'm gonna put it on the granite here to cool off until I can touch it. So now let's move forward to another kind of bead. And this one will be definitely sculpted. Get this out of the way. Um, Beads that look more ethnical. Let's say. Yeah, it's a pretty nice cameo. I got it from somebody on Etsy. I have no idea because I closed my Etsy account, so I cannot see former purchases I did. So I showed you the tree bead, the African trade type bead, didn't I? Did I? Because that's a really neat way to make a bead. So what you do a little sausage. And of course, once you make one of those, and you can, they look especially pretty when you make them with the uh, stripy stuff, like when you put a lot of strings together. And these kind of beads look especially pretty. But what you do, you practically make a circle. And try to make them all fairly equal on all sides. And you pretty much get 3 sides up. And I broke it here. I'm in a hurry. Okay, so you get 3 points of the circle you get up. 1, 2, and you try to make it fairly equal. 3. And then all you do, I mean, it's easier if you go in a triangle. And then you just lift the points of the triangle and just put them together. And you got a tri-folded bead. And if you have a stripy thing, you can actually go ahead and make it round, and it will keep this serpentine thing. Let me see. It's still too hot. Okay, now let's move forward to more ethnic beads. I love it. I cannot thank enough to Carrie, who bought it for me. It's awesome. So, number 1, there are several patterns that are fairly simple and that will give an ethnical feel to your piece. Number 1, cylinder. Make a line at each end just by rolling the bead with the dull edge of your rigid blade. And now, with this, you are absolutely free to embellish it with all kinds of things. One way, it would be just make lines from top to bottom. And I'll show you here in a minute how it looks. Make lines and dots from top to bottom. Just make them in combination of 2. So we do this, and then we take the little etch and pearl or the smallest ball stylus. And the beauty of it is that on the ethnic rings, ethnic beads, you know that it doesn't really have to be absolutely perfect, because ethnic stuff is not absolutely perfect, especially when it comes to handmade jewelry. So that's another thing. You can make zigzags. You can make circles in all kinds of combinations. And I'll show you now how it looks once you're done with them. And again, you can put mica on these, or if you want to go more for a ceramic look, just put a little bit of alcohol ink in liquid clay and put it on top, and the color would go in the recesses and will leave the top much better. It's not, I should have gotten a copperish one, not the silver. The silver doesn't show very good on green. Hold on. Of course, it has to be the very last one. There we go. It has to be always the last one. And there we go. It's much better with copper. You can see better the designs. Then the other thing would be the braids and chains. Let me see. This should be cool enough. So generally speaking, I always like to do it with a cuticle, but you can do it with the linoleum cutter. Let me pick the round one because we want the round one. And let's hope the camera will pick it up and I can do it in this position. I can't. I cannot do it in this position. I'm trying. I'm not promising I will not mess up. Because it's kind of hard to, and the camera doesn't even show it. Stupid camera. There we go. I'm not doing it perfectly because it's very hard for me to do it in this position and to see what I'm doing and get the camera to. And then once you're done with this, then you can put on top a clear coat because it will keep all this transparency of the scales. I mean, don't leave them like this because they can break. You kind of need to seal them up. But as mermaids are supposed to have a wet tail, it works just fine. Okay, now let me try and convince the camera to show it properly. Okay. And when you do it with the proper clay and with the proper coloring and everything, and of course you can put translucency and alcohol inks, but as I said, it's recommended that you seal this because otherwise they can snag and they can break. But this is how you get a very nice scale effect for mermaid tails. Okay. Now some bad news. I'm starting to hurt, so we might have to stop here. Do you want for the next time to continue with the sculpting beads? Because I still have to show you the braiding and the chain and all that. I hope you enjoyed this. But I'm starting to hurt. I mean, after doing the whole front yard, I'm amazed I can still sit. So, yes, it does make awesome results. It's a way of doing really neat stuff. Okay, then next time we'll do the whole braiding, and then I'll show you a few more trade beads secrets and other shapes of beads that you can do by semi-sculpting, semi-arranging. Okay. All right, I'm going to go lay down, and thank you for being here for the live. And if I ever get some ideas, I always might just jump on a live all of a sudden, that, either here or on Facebook. But yeah, look, because I'm going to post another quiz real soon, and I'm going to try and take care of stuff on the website today after I rest a little bit. So have a wonderful what's left of the Sunday, and thank you. Goodbye.